I would never tell a woman to walk through that in the same frame of mind I was in when I did it.
And when you say that, but what frame of mind was that? What do you mean by that in particular?
I was very, very hurt. I was very angry.
Technical issues, guys. Give me 2 secs. Okay, guys, I think we're back. I think the audio is working. Let me know. Let me know. I think the audio should be working now. Let me know if you can hear me clearly. For the people here, thanks for letting me know. I would have had no idea because I can't hear myself back. So yeah, I think the audio should be working. I just want to check that it is. Yeah, it's saying it's coming up. Timmy, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you for sure. Appreciate you. Okay, let's start again. So basically, hey guys, welcome. Welcome to Monday night. So we are going to be reacting to Samantha Lee, who is the ex-wife of Tyrese Gibson, and she's talking about her divorce, and she's talking about how she kind of regretted some of the decisions that she's made, as well as the fact how she would have handled it differently and maybe not even get a divorce. But I think there's a lot from this conversation that we can learn from, and there's a lot that we can take away from this. So at the moment, we've kind of jumped in about halfway through the conversation when it starts getting good. So she's talking about her decision to, kind of make the call to a divorce lawyer and go about with the divorce.
And I remember like when I made like the decision, I was like hysterically crying on the phone with my attorney. That was that person I should have been on the phone with when, like, that's a whole nother conversation. But anyway, I was hysterically crying. And
Yo, sorry to pause there, but isn't it mad how she was talking to a professional, like the attorney, she was hysterically crying, and the professional knew that she was in like emotional stress, and the professional was like, I'm still gonna accept the decisions you're gonna make. Do you know what I mean? Like, how mad is that? I think that's mad. Let's just show some people are all about the bag.
I was not in any position to make that decision. I was extremely emotionally intoxicated. We can be intoxicated with our emotions. And I'm one that's very much emotionally led. I feel very strongly. I'm just that kind of person, very passionate. But I would never tell somebody to make that decision when they're that emotional. But of course, I wasn't talking to someone that genuinely would be for marriage, or for reconciliation. And that's not no slight to my,
No, it's
it's
not.
not.
I mean, let's be honest. You're talking to a divorce attorney, and you're like, they're not, going to be for your marriage. Well, yeah, it's kind of their job to ensure business. It's interesting how in a lot of these, I don't know where she is. I'm assuming this is LA, but a lot of these cities where it's like LA, New York, London, these high-powered cities, it is all about business. And some people are willing to sacrifice, I don't want to say personal ethics or morals, but even like sacrifice a duty to the community for the sake of those personal gains. At the end of the day, she chose to do it, right? Like, we can't hold the attorney responsible. But the attorney, can imagine, was definitely kind of, okay, well, here are your options. Let me show you what you can have in case, you want to buy, instead of being like, calm down, talk to your husband, come back to me if you feel this way in 2 days' time, and then we can sort it. I highly doubt the attorney was like that.
Yeah, it has nothing. There's no slight to that. Down to friends, but I was on the phone with my attorney.
Yeah.
So it was something that was being said to me that hurt me at that time. And that, so at that time when I was on the phone and I made that decision, I was livid. I was emotional. I was hysterical. And so if anything, if I could take anything from that and advise somebody else, because I don't want families to be torn apart.
Yeah.
It would be that if you're that hurt and you're like that emotional about someone, that's not a lack of love. Like, the opposite of love is not hate. It's indifference. It's void of love, void of feelings.
I disagree there. I think the opposite of love is hate, because when you love someone, you care about them and you want the best for them. And when you hate someone, you have disdain for them and you want the worst for them. Though I do think indifferent is worse than hate, because if somebody hates you, that means you can still trigger them emotionally. Does that make sense? Whereas when you're indifferent, it means they have no effect on you. They can't make you smile. They can't make you sad. And that's almost worse, because it's like your existence is zero to them. DL Saint, welcome, my guy. Hope all is well. I appreciate you coming in. Salute to you. Salute to the chat. Salute to everybody who is watching right now. And if you're watching catch up, enjoy the stream. So just for a recap, we are watching Samantha Lee talk about her divorce with Tyrese, and she just made the point of how she said that hate is indifferent is actually the opposite of love, which I disagree. Hate is the opposite of love, but indifferent is worse than hate, because that person just doesn't have an effect on you. That person's existence doesn't exist. But let's carry on.
And so if I'm that emotional and I'm that hurt and I'm like on that level where I'm just like, I can't stop thinking and I'm just obsessing over why I am hurt. If it's misguided and misdirected, it can go in a bad direction. And so I think that, with that being said, I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
And I made a decision like, well, I'm so angry, I'm so hurt, and this is, and I'm just like, forget it, like, never mind, like, I need to be done with this. It's horrible, you just ruminating on all the negative things and not focused on any of the positive things. I posted a reel, and I mean this. I really mean this. There was a guy who was talking about that before he decides to marry his wife, he had said or had told his wife that he needed to choose the people that would speak to her in her most emotional moments. And
I think if we're talking about the same clip, I think she's talking about Patrick Bet-David, and he said something that I think is actually crucial for the benefits of relationships and marriage. And I think she's about to say, when you're in your worst moments, or what Patrick Bet-David said, he was like, before he chose to marry his wife to see if he was ready, after reading this book, this guy reads like no one. He was like, I need to know who your friends and who do you go to if we have an argument. And she was like, okay, I'll go to this person, this person, this person. And he was like, okay, cool. Well, then I'm not ready to get married. And she was like, why? And he was like, because this person is single, this person perpetually is dating whatever, and this person's doing this. None of those people are going to vouch for me when you're annoyed at me. And the closest people should vouch for your partner and your relationship. And I think that is so true and so paramount. I think that is absolutely crucial for going through rocky times, because when you're in it and you're emotional, it can be hard to see the actual great things you have in your relationship, even though you guys might be having a falling out. And those people who are closest to you are supposed to be there to remind you of those things in those moments, because sometimes it's hard for us to be aware. So yeah, it's true. I mean, I do wonder how many breakups happened because friends were encouraging the destination of their friend being single in the relationship instead of having the relationship anymore. And if they actually were for the relationship as opposed to just kind of appeasing what's going on, maybe there would have been a different scenario, a different situation. But let's see if that's what she says. I hope that's what she says. Otherwise, I have no idea what she's about to say.
It was people that would be for the relationship.
Right.
Yeah, facts.
And I know a lot of people had different kind of like comments about the person and everything like that, but the message of what he was saying for me resounds true, because the people I had in my ear at the time were not for that.
Let me ask you this, because I think that's such a good point. Like, when you're even in that spot where when you're emotional,
Yes.
you're in the pit of your relationship.
Yes.
It's so important to make sure you have people who are pro-marriage, pro-relationship, pro your current relationship, 100%. To be able to help, as much as possible, 100%. Make the best decision to keep the marriage going.
Yeah.
When everybody may not have access to that counsel. So let me ask you this. If we can go back, and if I were able somehow to insulate you with a pro-marriage, pro-relationship community, do you think you still would have actually gone through a divorce?
Not that time.
Okay.
I don't know what would have happened. Oh, I've never said this publicly.
No, that's what we.
Yo, that is mad. That is crazy. That is actually crazy. Like, her actually saying that, that's actually crazy. This is a woman who was married to a incredible guy, right? He's definitely high value, and he was super upset by it. And her answering that is actually crazy. She was literally like, they asked her, if you had the right people around you in your time of emotional stress, do you think you would still be with him and your family would still be intact? And she basically said, yeah, if I had the right people around me at the right time, it'd still be intact. That's crazy. Yo, that's actually scary, because it means that this isn't actually what she wanted. And because she was getting the wrong influence, she blew her life up. She blew her marriage up. She blew the family up. She broke it apart. Now, whether that was the right thing to do or not, from the sounds of it, I don't think that was the right thing. Let me just jump in the comments real quick. DL Saint, appreciate you, man. Yes, guys, hit that like button on the way in. We appreciate you watching wherever you are. We appreciate the people in the chat. DL Saint, marriage is a bad deal for the person with the money and resources. There doesn't seem to be any downside for the person with less money and resources. Is it the same on this side of the pond? Yes, it is, my friend. It is pretty much the same. And it's actually worse here. And I'll tell you why it's worse here, because there's no such thing as prenups in the UK. There's no such thing as prenups. Prenups aren't a thing over here. That's a very US thing. So even if a man or woman, but even if somebody wanted to protect their resources should the marriage fail, they can't even do that. Not really. So it is the same. Timmy says he wasn't just high value, it was Tyrese. True. Big facts. But I think that's scary for her to admit that. And kudos to her for being honest. But I think that really even shows how important it is to have the right people around you in your time of distress for your relationship, because as we clearly see, that can make or break the relationship. Let's keep going.
This is good.
No. Make sure you zoom in on this one.
Don't actually no. I want to deny myself. I want to deniability. Yeah, no, the truth about the matter is that if I had different people in my ear at that time, I would not have made that decision. No.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I wouldn't. And that's the truth. I try my very best at this point in my life to be what I didn't have in that moment. Because I think that I was, women were like, I'm an extremely emotional person. People that know me know that about me. I'm the kind of person that like, okay, I feel so, and I can ruminate. I can get so lost in my thoughts. I know a lot of women are like that. Like we're a lot, not all of us, right? But some of us are. Just like a lot of men can be like that. But I know women specifically, there will be moments where they'll be like, I'm ready to be done. I'm ready to be done. I'm ready to be done. I can't stand this. You don't do this. You don't do that. Blah, 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 blah. And we're just focusing on these things. And because you don't have a certain person in your life to check you and say, sis, what about this? What about this? What about these strengths? What about what he's not doing? Like those types of things. That can get you thinking about the positive aspects of this person that you may not be thinking about when you're upset.
That is exactly what I just said. That is literally exactly what I just said. And I was even just thinking now, I think it would even be beneficial for a woman to have a male person in her life, a friend, brother, cousin, a male who doesn't want to have sex with her, right? To be that. And it would be good for a guy to have a female friend, cousin, sister who he's close with, who can be that for him. Because I think a lot of the time it's easy for us guys to, is it easy for us guys to take the guy's side? You know what? I'm biased. I think guys tend to hold each other a little bit more accountable, but then I think we also can excuse bad behavior because we're like, well, that's your choice. You live with the consequences. But if you ask me, I'm going to tell you what I think. I think women are more inclined to support her emotionally, which is great. But sometimes in aid of supporting her emotionally, she can fan the flame. She can fan false flames. Does that make sense? So I even think that it's beneficial as a woman to have a close male in your life who can be that, and for a man to have a close female in your life who can be that a lot of the time, with boundaries depending if you're related to them or not.
You're only thinking about what you're mad about.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about all the other positive aspects of this person. And so in those moments, you need somebody to be the person for that person.
Yeah.
In those moments.
So it's still some people in the chat right now that they still confused. They really not understanding with the pro marriage, right? Or somebody who's an advocate for marriage. So if you could just paint the people who weren't necessarily pro marriage, and you come into them, or you just expressing these different issues that you having.
Yeah.
What type of responses were you actually getting versus what you should have been receiving?
It's not so much about what should have been received, because I think that based on what had occurred in our relationship by that time, a lot of people were saying that this was time for me to leave this particular relationship.
Yeah.
It wasn't just me. It was.
I'd be really curious to know who those people were. I know they talk about, what were those people saying? But I think I'd be very curious to know who those people were. Were those girlfriends? Were those sisters? Were those her work colleagues? Was it her attorney, her lawyer? Who were those people? Because sometimes who the person is, we can easily estimate what kind of thing they're going to say, especially if, I don't know. Like I said, Patrick Bet-David said, we like to recruit to our in-group. Single people like to recruit single people. People in relationships like to recruit people to relationships, as in encourage people to join the relationship community. So I'd be very curious as to know who those people were who were, whispering those things in her ear.
My loved ones. I have been seeing a therapist. My therapist, I had people that were like, it's time. This is not the best decision for you to remain in as is. And so when that happened, or what I mean by pro marriage is that there is people in my life that it's not so much pro marriage, it's pro the other person. So my thought process, based upon the clip that I shared on my own page, was he had people in his life that would advocate for her in her in his most heated moments. And he wanted his wife to have people that would advocate for him in those moments.
So important.
And so it wasn't necessarily somebody that was pro-marriage as much as it was giving a different perspective on that person that would be fair to that person in that moment. So it could be it might be, let's say my best friend, my homegirl, she might be pro-marriage, but she's pro-me. She gonna advocate for me on that phone. I'm talking about somebody that maybe it's his sister. Maybe it's his mom. Maybe it's somebody that can, maybe not the mom. I don't want to do the mom, but like somebody else in his life that could advocate and speak to him that he has designated, because that's what this guy did.
That's an interesting concept. Someone that he has designated. So you would choose. I don't know if that would work. I don't know if you'd be like, hey, I want this person to be your go-to when you're not happy with me. Because if that part, it's very hard to exercise objectivity in that sense. But if you're saying for him to choose, or you choose who his is and he chooses who yours is, I don't know if that would work. But I think you as the individual have to take some accountability and do due diligence in who that person is going to be for you. Because I think we all have that one friend who we know is just going to tell it to us how it is. Do you know what I mean? And actually, even when, and I only say this because I have a couple of female friends who've said this, when something happens with a guy that they're not happy about and they're upset, they'll go to their girlfriends. When they want solutions and advice, they'll come to me. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, even having that person, people can actively avoid going to that person because they know that person is going to give them a real solution, and maybe they're not ready for that yet. Maybe they just need some emotional comfort. But yeah, interesting. Let me know. Would you let your partner choose who your go-to person is? Would I? Maybe I would, if I trust him. If I do trust her.
Designated certain people that when she's that upset and she needs an ear, she's not just talking to friends, her own friends who are going to advocate for her, but more or less somebody that's going to advocate for him in those moments and be able to be a voice of reason for him when she's not hearing him. That's what he was asking. That's what he was saying. And that's what I think that I didn't have. I had people that were in my life that were advocating for me. And that's not a negative thing.
Yeah.
It just was, at the time, being so hurt, so emotional, just being in my feelings, making a move. I didn't necessarily have that, nor did I make space for that. And so I would say to a woman that's highly upset, that's highly emotional, it's like, you know what, I'm done. I'm about to call the, he did this, he did that again, blah, blah, blah. You go, no, you're actually not ready to do this. You being at this space of emotional intoxication, you're making a life-changing decision. You have absolutely no idea what you're about to walk into. So you should actually sit down, chill out, relax, call somebody that, watch one of your favorite shows, walk around, do something different, and then come to a place or call somebody. I know in my own life and in the women.
Yeah, but they're not going to want to hear that though. That's the issue. I'd be very surprised, right? Because this is Samantha Lee. Okay, she's in a very high position in life. She has a lot of amazing people around her. I assume. I don't know her life integrally, in detail, but I assume she has a lot of good people around her. Are you telling me out of everybody around her, not one person said that to her? Not one person was like, "Hey, I know you've had this falling out and you're going through issues, but are you sure you want to do this? Is this really the route?" Are you telling me that everybody she had was like, yeah, girl, get out there, screw him, all of this? Every single person? I'll be very surprised because there's usually at least that one person who's like, maybe you should think about this. I just think about it, like sleep on it. But she's saying, that apparently she didn't have that. Or maybe she did have that, but because she was emotional, she prioritizes the emotional comfort, not the solutions, which is sometimes what people can do. Do you know what I mean?
That I've worked with for a very long time, they know that they can reach out to me like, sis, I'm, my husband's doing X, Y, and Z. Can I reach out to you? And they'll reach out to me and we'll sit on the phone. I'll be like, no, you're wrong. Are you ready to hear this? You're wrong. You actually should be doing this. You actually should. And they've grown to trust me because they know that ultimately I'm going to say when somebody is wrong, but I'm going to give you a perspective that is not going to break the family up because I am experiencing a broken family. I'm experiencing what that's like.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes in our culture, we don't allow space for, like, it's like we want to be able to be strong and have these, we think being strong is angry and taking control over the situation. Like, that's not straight.
Yeah.
That's not. Yeah, so sorry.
Okay, so
real quick, I have to be honest here. And fellas, tell me what you think. Ladies, tell me what you think. I think a lot of men have this experience of when his girlfriend comes in because she's upset about something, like something external outside the relationship. Maybe something happened at work or, you know, whatever. She fell out with a friend and they're telling him about it. A lot of guys' initial instinct is to provide a solution. Is to be like, okay, well, you could have done this better. She's wrong for this, but you could have done this, right? And this is what you could do moving forward. And a lot of the time that gets backfired because sometimes, and it took me a while to learn this, sometimes she just wants to be heard. She doesn't want any solutions, right? She doesn't want you to figure things out. She doesn't want to be told what she can or can't do, right? She doesn't want to be told what to do moving forward or how she could have handled it better. She just wants some emotional comfort. She just wants to be heard and she wants someone to listen. So when she's saying like, yeah, I'll tell her whatever, it's like, I don't date men. So women, you tell me. But from my experience, if a woman's really upset about something, she has to be ready for the solution. And if she's not ready for the solution, even if the solution is perfect for the situation, she's not going to take it. She's going to be like, why are you telling me I'm wrong? Or like, why are you telling me what to do? I just want you to listen to me. So I don't know about that. I agree with her fundamentally, but I think that's a very masculine way of doing things. Because as guys, when we share problems, when we go to our boys, like, hey, like this is going on, a lot of how we show love, like masculine love, you know, between friends and between guys and bonding is we go, okay, let's come up with a solution to fix this. Women are slightly different. Women need to feel heard, validated. Then after all of that's been satisfied emotionally, then they can start looking at solutions, seeing what they could do better. But unless a woman's ready for that, you could be telling her the perfect dream. She's not going to hear you. I don't think she's going to hear you. Some will. But I think for a lot of women, they have to be ready for it.
This is the thing. So, because you talked about people don't detail or maybe they don't give you the counseling you need, preparing you for what you're about to walk into.
Right.
So I really want to find out, like, what do you actually walk into? So at the point of you filing a divorce, right, you got the wife and the husband. You got these two sides now, on opposite sides. So, like, what actually happens at the point you file for divorce? Like, what happens with you? What happens with the family? What happens with friends? Like, how are all the pieces laid out?
Oh, goodness. It's
Okay.
No, go ahead. So typically in a situation, if anybody, whether it's a male or female, decides to proceed with a divorce, you would then file for a divorce. And so at that point, you were either retain an attorney, or you fill out the paperwork yourself. People can do it themselves. Once you get lawyers involved, I'll be honest, and I mean, I love my, I don't want to shade anybody or whatever, but lawyers, court systems win in this. No, families don't win in divorce.
Yeah,
I've heard that before.
Lawyers win.
Facts.
They win. We families don't win. You don't win when a family is broken apart. I think Jay-Z said this. He's like, nobody wins when the family feuds.
Yeah.
Nobody wins. It's not a situation where somebody is a winner. But you basically, when you get lawyers involved, and there was a therapist that was speaking to both me and him, a marital therapist at the time, that when I told him my decision, he was like, when you get lawyers involved, it gets ugly. He told me that. And, I didn't even realize, I don't think I even realized how ugly it would get. Man.
I have to be honest, right? Because as far as I'm aware, this is her first divorce, as far as I'm aware. But she's saying like, oh, I didn't realize how ugly it could get. But I mean, an ugly divorce is no stranger to the public knowledge. Like, we've seen people in high positions, even people in our own lives, go through terrible divorces, like horrendous. And it just sounds like she's like, oh yeah, like I didn't realize how bad it was going to be. And maybe you don't really know how bad it is until you're in it. But are you surprised that it's bad, especially with everything at stake. Like you had no idea. Do you know what I mean? This is why, like, you can't. These decisions can't be made lightly. And I'm not saying she made it lightly, but you have to be so sure, because just getting out of a marriage, especially if you're at that level, there's, assets and kids and finances involved, and there's a lot at stake. Like you may not have hated your partner, like as you decided to get a divorce, but by the end of it, you might hate your partner just because of how the divorce went, and because you've got two lawyers battling it out. Yeah, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. Timmy says, let's keep it a buck. There was a financial incentive. Maybe, man. I think I don't know if there was a financial incentive because they did have kids. I'm not saying that she couldn't benefit from it, but if maybe the financial side made it a sweeter deal. Do you know what I mean? It made it a sweeter choice to go down that route. If she, I don't know, if she knew like she wasn't gonna get anything, would she have made the same decision? Maybe, maybe not. But I think the financial definitely made it a sweeter deal for her.
Like I said, if I could walk back in time, sometimes I battle with myself about that. But at that time, I thought I was doing the right thing or the best thing. I didn't know how ugly it could get. And I know a lot of women, we make that decision and we're so hurt and angry. And then 5-6 months later, you're not that angry anymore. Like, oh, this kind of like still care about him. I kind of still have these feelings for him now that I've had time has passed and I'm not in his face every day. I've now had the space to like forgive and open myself up to that. But now you made an irreparable hole.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have the ability to step back and understand that if I'm this hurt and I'm crying, I'm this upset and at this high level of emotionality, this is not me being done with the relationship. This is me still in the relationship, needing to work this out with this person.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, hindsight's a beautiful thing. But essentially, not making permanent decisions when you're emotional, I feel like that's just standard of being an adult, I would have thought. I don't know what they went through. I don't know what her emotional stresses were. But her being, she's saying, you make a decision because you're really emotional. And then a few months down the line, when you're over the emotions, you're like, oh, wow, maybe I made the wrong choice. Like, as an adult, that's just kind of minimum standard. Like, you don't make permanent decisions when you're emotional about them. Do you know what I mean? Like, kids do that. Children do that. But as an adult, like, I feel like that's just standard. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that's not me having, not being empathetic towards how she was feeling. But saying that going through this horrendous divorce and everything made her then realize, oh, I shouldn't make permanent decisions when I'm emotional and upset about something. It's like, you should have learned that a long time ago. You should have learned that a while ago, to be honest.
Because I instead of saying, well, this person hurt me so bad, so I just got to go. Like, that's inaccurate.
So no. So this is good counsel. You're pretty much saying, A, before you make a decision, insulate yourself with a community that's going to give you a balanced perspective. That's going to be advocate of your own self-care.
Sure.
As well as that can speak for your partner.
Yes.
In a healthy way.
Yes.
And also make sure you're in a stable emotional state where you're not at a high, erratic place of emotion.
Yeah.
When you're making a life, family altering decision.
I'm telling you, that is the biggest mistake. That's the biggest regret I have.
But I said this, is that not that's just common sense though? No? Is that not common? Am I being harsh? If I'm being harsh, tell me I'm being harsh. That's just common sense. Don't make permanent life decisions when you're upset. That's like standard. People will be like, I'm too angry to drive. Do you know what I mean? People will be like, I'm too angry to go to this meeting. I'm too pissed off to go out tonight. But you'll be like, I'm upset, but I'm not angry enough, or upset, but I'm not too bad enough in the moment that I can decide to end everything. I think that's just common sense. I don't want to sound like I'm being harsh, but you're learning that now? Nah, come on, guys. We have to do better than that. We have to do better than that.
I currently have.
And you're given a distinction that when you contact the attorney, that's pretty much when it all truly starts.
It's war. Like,
Okay.
it becomes, even if you don't, I mean, of course, there's obviously people that walk out and it doesn't have to be that. But in my situation, you've got two highly emotional people. Now you've got two attorneys speaking on behalf and trying to advocate and win a case and going as far as they can go to win the case to, like, prove their point. I mean, do their job, essentially. So win. I mean, that's the point. If they're winning, we're losing, both of us, but they're winning. And so it becomes like that. And when you get the lawyers involved, it gets ugly. And a lot of women are very cavalier about this. And this is like a passionate one. Y'all know I'm mixed. I am mixed with white, Black, and Hispanic. So there's a lot going on. But the Caribbean and Hispanic side of me is passionate. So I'm going to use my hands. I'm going to jump up. I'm going to do a lot of different things. It's just how I am. But like, I get very passionate about this. A lot of women want to get married to get married.
Mm-hmm.
Has absolutely no understanding of the responsibilities and the commitment and what you're saying on the other side of I do.
What she's saying is that a lot of women want to get married, but they don't know if they want to be a wife. That's essentially what she's saying. And I get it. There's this whole fairy tale of the big wedding day and stuff. And it's a beautiful time. It's a beautiful time. I say to this day, I've had a lot of great moments in my career, but the best day of my life was my cousin's wedding day. It is when you have a beautiful wedding day and you're surrounded by food, drink, family, friends, people you love, care about, everyone having a good time. Is some of the most beautiful moments you will ever have in your life. And that wasn't even my wedding. Do you know what I mean? That wasn't even my wedding. It was someone who I love dearly's wedding. And that was the best day of my life so far. So I get the insatiable desire to have that, because those moments are beautiful. But marriage is a contract at the end of the day. It's a commitment. If you're religious, it's a commitment you make before God to someone. And she's absolutely right. I think a lot of people just want to get married. Also, there's this status that comes with being married. I think especially for women, there's this status that comes with it. Not that it doesn't come from men as well, but if like you're the girl in the group, like, oh, I'm getting married, like there's a level of status that comes with that. And it's kind of the ultimate status any man can give a woman. I think the ultimate thing a woman can give a man is a child, because she bears his children. And the ultimate thing a man can give a woman is marriage, right? Like that's the ultimate thing a man can give a woman. And so I think a lot of people, they want that status, but they don't want the responsibility that comes with that status. Do you know what I mean?
And a lot of times, even myself in my life, I've used my emotionality to protect me, like my anger to protect me, my ability to run away to protect me. But when it comes to a marriage, we have to get a better understanding and a honing of those skills before you decide to say you want to get married. If you've always been a runner and you say, oh, I'm about to get married to this dude, and we about to do this thing, you need to work on your little running issue, because guaranteed that marriage is going to trigger a running issue on you. And you're going to have to now deal with that trigger in a very real way. And if you haven't worked on that, you end up running.
Let me ask you this, because I think a big reason that a lot of, people, me just communicating personally, as well as the chat, they feel like they leave their marriage when they're at this place of almost like helplessness and loneliness, where they feel like the other person isn't working as hard as them to fix the marriage. And you just feel like you're kind of working alone, and it's a one-sided relationship at some point. Did you feel like, is that what was actually happening at that point? Did you feel like your partner was not necessarily working as hard as you to get the relationship to where it needed to be healthy? Was that a reality that you had in your relationship?
Oh, break.
To be fair to him, because I want to be fair, I'm going to speak to him lovingly. I think that he was doing what he felt like was his best.
Okay.
I think what I was asking and what I needed were things that I don't know if it wasn't when I left, I wanted certain things, and he decided that he did not want to do those things.
Okay.
And I felt like at that point, if you can't meet, if you wanting certain things for me and sacrifices for me, and then when I ask or finally ask for something and you're like, no, well, then at that point, like, you're giving me really no other choice. You know, you're not like really leaving room for me to, do something else. It's like, nah.
I'd have a question. The things that she's asking for, that she was asking for, were they new things, or were they things that he used to do that he doesn't do anymore? That's actually really important, because if it's something that he used to do and he stopped doing them, and he's just stopped doing them because maybe he got a bit complacent or he just doesn't want to do them anymore, if that's changed, then I'm completely on her side in that sense. But if it's something she wanted something new, something that he never promised before, that, hey, this is what I will do for us in a relationship, I think to have a very much where if I don't get it, then I'm done, I think that's unfair and unjust, because you're asking for something new. They've not changed what they're bringing to you. They've not changed for why you chose them. Now you're asking for extra in certain ways. I don't know what those ways were. We don't know. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't be open to compromise and flexibility. Do you know what I mean? I think that's really beneficial for a relationship, to try and make both people happy in it and content in it. But ultimately, if you're asking for something new and your partner just doesn't want to do it, that doesn't make them wrong. It may not make them right, but it also doesn't make them wrong. It definitely doesn't make them wrong. And you may have to be willing to compromise. That's when, if two people love each other and want to make it work, then you come to a compromise. But I'd love to know if that was something new she was asking for, or if that was something he just stopped doing.
You gonna do what you want. So it was like, okay, well, what do I do? I either change my perception of it. If I've changed in my perception and done as much as I can to my perception of what's going on. And then, or there's 3 ways the situation changes. So let me just say that, like, in relational theory, there's a 3 model, triangular model: situation, you, and the person that you're in a relationship with. Either you change, relationship changes, or the other person changes. Only 3 ways that a relationship can change. So if I've changed and I can't control another person, so I keep trying to change my perception or change my behavior or change something about me so I can receive this other person, if I've come to a place where I've exhausted all that I can do to make this situation occur or work or be functional or healthy, then the only other option I have is for the relationship to change, because that person has decided not to.
Now, here's a fair. Do you feel like you did exhaust?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah,
even in the current day, because now I feel like you're a different woman now today.
I am.
Like, even if in today's version of exhausting all of your resources, do you still think it's the same? Like, to the standard that you have today of evolving and changing who you are?
That's a good
Because I think
question.
that's another thing too, right? Like, I think at different parts of our life, we just have different tolerance levels. We have different skill sets. We just know more. Knowing what you know today, do you still think and hold yourself to the standard that you've exhausted all that you possibly could have?
I'm going to think about this deeply too. I want
I would like you to.
a real answer from me and not a... I think I could have waited longer. I openly say that. I could have waited. I could have been a little bit more patient with that. Like, I had my, like, what I said, I could have waited, right? I could have taken a pause and given it time, and maybe he was reacting to what I was saying and he was upset with what he was, he's an emotional person as well. We're both feeling very strongly about each other and feeling very strongly about what we wanted. And to be fair, I can see in that moment, him being upset and saying no and not really meaning that, right? Like maybe.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because she's essentially saying all she said she would do differently is that she would be more patient. But if things didn't change on his part, would she have continued to leave? I mean, half the time she's been saying that she wished she didn't. Do you know what I mean? I think she would handle it differently. I think she would have more patience, but I think she would also handle it differently. Diamond Pro 200, hello, welcome. Thanks for jumping in. Thanks for joining us. Shout out to everyone who is here, by the way. I've been told by DL saying, make sure you hit that like button, just to help with the algo. But we are talking about Samantha Lee and her divorce, and she just said about how she would have been more patient if she could handle it differently. But she spent most of the interview basically saying how she made the wrong choice. So she would definitely handle it differently, and she would be different to try and ensure that the marriage didn't end. I don't know why she said that, but I understand. She's been very open and honest. So, fair play to her. We have to give her credit for that. It's not always easy, especially on a public forum. But she didn't really say that she would. The only thing she said is that she would basically wait longer until come into the same decision. That's not really things changing,
He was just like, I'm just like, you highly upset you made a decision. I'm highly upset I made a decision, or I said something, but right?
Just a reaction.
Right, as a reaction. So I could have been open and more patient to that. But do I think that as far as what efforts I put in to make it work, did I do as much as I possibly could? Absolutely. I could have been more patient. That didn't require me doing, but being. And so like I could have stayed present and been a little bit more patient. That's something I could have done. I could have been more patient with his process. Yeah.
Sam, I'm gonna be honest with you.
What?
That was some. Listen, you keeping it real tonight.
Yeah, kudos to her. She is keeping it
because,
real.
like, that's a real statement. Like, I love your objectivity tonight, because I think women need to hear this. Because I'm gonna be honest, we have had shows with just guys. We've had shows with just ladies.
Yeah.
We've had shows with one guy, multiple guys, one lady, multiple ladies. And I'm gonna be honest, and y'all can go back and watch our content. In my opinion, I feel like you typically hear most of the accountability from the men. Like, men typically in general take accountability if the marriage went bad, the things that they messed up on. It's a lot less victimhood in the conversation, where I typically don't get that as often when I hear the ladies speak.
Yo, let's just first a shout out to him, because he's wearing what I'm wearing. Why is he copying me? I'm joking. Obviously, I copied it. I didn't even realize he was wearing it. So shout out to you, bro, for the host, for the good dress sense. But he is absolutely right in the sense of, I think a lot of people have that anecdotal experience, where guys will take accountability a lot of the time for what they messed up with. Not all the time, but if he's a good guy and he's intentional, he will say, yeah, she did this, but I could have done this. And I think a big reason this is, in comparison to maybe women, is because society forces men to take accountability more so. Like, if a guy is messing up, like, we know about it. We don't get the results that we want, and people will tell us that we're losers or that we're messing up, etc. For women, it's a little bit different, or it's different for younger women, because if you're a young woman, especially if you're an attractive woman, you can get away with a lot. Attractive people get away with a lot, but especially if you're an attractive woman, you can get away with a lot. She's a very attractive woman. And the only time it catches up in general is, as everybody's looks do, when looks start to fade. Because then people aren't going to tolerate and be tolerable of certain things, because you're not they're not mesmerized by the attractiveness and the aesthetics of who you are. And so I don't want to sit here and say, oh, women don't take accountability, because some women do. But I think we do live in a culture where it is easier for women to get away with accountability in relationships, especially when it comes to men. But men are very much held accountable. A lot of time, men are held accountable for a woman's emotions, in which, how can a man even be accountable for emotions anyway? Like, we're all responsible for our own emotions. That's not saying he can't hurt her and she can't be upset. But it's like, if she's unhappy in life, it's his fault. And I even remember I was talking to Chengi, If you guys haven't seen that episode, go watch that episode. This is the full podcast episode with me and Chengi. And she basically says, because I asked her, I was like, oh, why is it that publicly on social media and, you know, on TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube, when relationships end, we almost always hear that it's the guy's fault. And she even said, yeah, even when it may be the woman's fault, she may still portray publicly that it's the guy's fault. And I'm like, why is that? And she's like, because generally speaking, most women want commitment, want a relationship. Publicly, she doesn't want it to look like that she has failed. Do you know what I mean? She doesn't want it to look like that she has actually failed. And I guess that makes sense. And I understand, but then you don't have to say anything publicly. But I think maybe I'm biased because I'm a guy, but there's something really attractive about a woman who can take accountability, who has standards for what she will accept and won't tolerate, but she can say, hey, I could have done this better. Because it really shows that you're a team, as opposed to, it's your job as the man to make this work and to make me happy. But when you're like, hey, I want to show up for you, but I want you to show up for me, that's really attractive and that's really pleasant. And I would expect women want the same in men as well. Diamond Pro 200, love the content. Do you stream daily then? I don't. It's just so happened that I've streamed for 2 nights in a row, but I am going to be doing more regular live streams. I'll always post in my community board when I'm streaming that night, so always keep a lookout for that, and give it a like so it kind of boosts and, you know, you can see it. More people can see it. But yeah, I am streaming more. I'll be bringing on guests, reacting to different dating content, stuff like this. And if also as well, guys, if there's any video you want me to react to, you want me to see, you know, feel free to send it my way. Just send me a DM on Instagram. But let's continue with this. We're about.
But when I'm hearing you speak tonight, I am hearing this level of objectivity that I don't necessarily hear from ladies, which I appreciate.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Fair play to her.
And I think what you're saying is real.
Yeah.
Because when you think about, even when you're saying that somebody needs to be at a level place of emotion when going through divorce, that's not even common. I literally had a close friend of mine go through a divorce. And I remember me and Ryan went out to a function. This is before it all went down. We saw him and his wife at the function. His wife was sitting alone. And when I walked up to her to greet her, the funny thing, I knew something was off. First of all, she was way too tipsy. And I hugged her and she was just way too touchy. I didn't like that.
The lingering touch.
Very lingering. Like it wasn't overtly inappropriate, but it was like an undertone of inappropriate. And this wasn't like her. She's a very poised, classy woman. And I instantly knew something was wrong. So I had a feeling I knew what it was. So I looked and I told her, it's going to be okay.
Right.
I said, listen, trust me. It's going to be okay.
Yo, respect to him. That's mad emotional intelligence, you know. That's an experienced man who has had a lot of experience dealing with women's emotions and has that elevated level of emotional intelligence. For him to look at her and pick up on those cues, she's being a bit touchy-feely, so it's slightly inappropriate. I know she's not like this, and she's a bit tipsy. Something must be wrong. She must be compensating or coping for something. And for him to just come out and be like, yo, it's going to be okay. Respect.
Y'all need to listen, work through this shit. And I said that to her. Instantly I said that, tears started falling from her eyes. And she was like, Ty, I can't be the only one doing this.
Facts.
I can't be the only one fighting for this. I get a call a few weeks later, 2 weeks later from him. And he told me I need a divorce attorney because I just got served divorce papers from the guy. Didn't even notice what's happening. That means that probably even when I was telling her this, she probably had already been speaking to attorneys.
Definitely.
At this point. So I can imagine the emotional place that she's in. And most people, when they're going through that process, so when we're talking about telling ladies, yo, I know that this is how you feel. I know that this is what you're going through, but you need to be patient in this place that you're in, this emotional place, and let this dust settle a bit, and then look at making these life-changing, family-changing decisions before you move forward. I think that's major counsel. Do you mind putting a poll together?
Yeah, what's the poll?
I want to talk to the people.
What's the poll?
Because I want to know.
Why you worried about the poll? The poll gonna be lit.
No, listen. I want to see if we have the people in here.
I'm listening.
If they're either considering divorce
Jesus. Okay, we're going there.
Going through a divorce.
She worried about getting cooked.
Or have been divorced. So whatever you add to it, because Ryan got he got the best options on the poll. So however you can swag that out too. I just want to kind of get a feel for that. And by the way, the Facebook family that's on here, we are 30 minutes in. So please come to YouTube. We're about to close down the Facebook Live. Come on over to YouTube. And we already got almost 800 people in here. I need you guys to please press the like button because we only got 200 likes.
You heard that, people. Press the like button. If you want to help him, press the like button. No, just play it.
Let's get it to 400 real quick because we need to spread this message because Sam is keeping it so 100. I promise she's going to
It's making me uncomfortable.
She's going to save some family. No, you're saving families tonight.
No, I'm glad you think it's.
Yeah, maybe she is. Yeah.
You're not saying nothing cliche. You're saying things that I promise you're saving a soul in here tonight. Even if it's just, if we can keep one family together in here, it's going to be worth it. So I appreciate you for that.
So I just made this one very simple, guys. So make sure you go answer that poll real quick. I got, are you considering going through or have experienced a divorce? Very simple, yes or no. We're just trying to see. We got a bunch of divorcees or a bunch of potential divorcees in the chat right now.
Yeah.
So we got some people who ready to stick it out and make it to the end. And I want to do this real quick because we got a couple people I want to give a shout out to. Shout out to Doris and Didi. Says they first time on live. So guys, do this for me. If this is your first time ever catching us live, I want you to drop live in the chat right now. Shout out to Lady Fancy and RL Vaughn for joining the membership.
Yeah, I'm going to steal that too. Yeah, go for it, guys. If this is your first time catching the live, drop a live in the chat. Feel free. Come join.
And shout out to Benita and SBU Live.
This is a great conversation.
Yeah, shout out to them for sending over them super chats.
Really
BJ, we love you.
Big shout out to SVU Live. Big shout out.
Yeah, I'm glad you thinking about these statements first because it is a lot to consider, especially when you think about because hindsight is 2020.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
So no, it really is 2020. I can't wait to read those poll results, and we're gonna keep the conversation going.
They coming in quick, man. It's a lot of people. 61% right now so far said yes to that question about divorce.
That's heavy.
Wow.
Either considering it, been through it, or going through it right now.
So let me ask you this here because obviously you said the attorneys are the only ones that win.
I think lawyers win.
When you go into the process, it makes and that would actually make sense.
Yeah.
Because I did call up my attorney friend to refer her over to my my guy, and even the way the conversation was being had, it was so mechanical. It was so unemotional, and it was just the way it happened. I knew it felt like it was just such an administrative conversation.
Yo, we forget when people go through divorce, God forbid if any of us go through divorce, we're watching this now, anyone here, and you go to a divorce lawyer, right? And you're upset and it's an emotional time. For them, it's just another Tuesday. Like, it's just another Tuesday for them. They're just like, yeah, I'll take care of you and your divorce, right? This is what the bill's going to be. This is what we can get you. Let's go do it. Let's go to war. Like, it's just another Tuesday for them. Usually if we're going somewhere emotional stuff, there's usually some level of consideration, but they are so used to people coming to them when they're emotional that I imagine that they were almost desensitized towards it. Not that they don't have any empathy, but they're like, yeah, I'm in the line of work that when people are emotional, this is when we make money. When people want to split up their relationship, their marriage, their houses, their family, that's when I make money. So when someone comes to me, if I know that's how I make money and that's how I put food on my table, what's the incentive to dissuade them? Do you know what I mean? Wow, that's actually great. Yeah, I can imagine it being quite clinical like that, which is kind of sad, but
yeah.
And I knew it was about to happen, right? I just felt it, and it's a very loveless conversation. And the thing about it is, I see when you say, yo, when you call this, it changes the whole vibe of the relationship.
It does.
Is that when the worst of either you or your partner came out at that point in time?
Absolutely. I mean, it was, I don't want either my attorneys have had my back, and I'm that's something I want to say that first. I'm not trying to,
no shade, no shady attorneys
to my, to attorneys or whatever. I'm not trying to shade nobody. I'm just saying what I believe is true. I would say that absolutely the dynamics change. Like when you start lawyering up and they're speaking on, they're going to say things, both parties are going to say things that are very, very hurtful, that are going to be damaging, that are going to paint a certain picture in order to win the case.
Yeah, because that's because the lawyers are looking for as much dirt on your spouse as much as they can to use against them in court to get as much as they can. That's a big reason why it turns nasty, because a lot of the secrets and the things that you would have kept between each other, that you'd have kept for the other person, now you're like, oh, I can use this to get more. And you're not thinking about the other person. You're just thinking about how can I use this to get? Because the lawyers are like, give me all the dirt and all the detail about all the skeletons he has, or the secrets she has, anything we can use to gain leverage in this divorce. So of course it's going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly because literally all the secret weapons, all the hidden weapons, all the, the hidden blades, the lawyers are like, that's what I need to fight this for you.
Win whatever they're trying to win, or defend whatever they're trying to defend. And that gets very ugly because you're not, it gets very ugly. It gets very ugly. There's no other way to put it besides ugly. We have, two people that are being represented. We're both highly emotional. We're both, coming at each other. And
at the end of the day, you do want to win. I mean, you want to get whatever it is that you feel like you just do.
Yeah.
And it is divorce proceeding is in the court of law. Yeah. So it's certain things and certain ways you have to paint a picture to actually get what you want.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely.
That what he said right there is so important to note when it comes to divorce settlement. In order to gain something, you have to paint a certain picture. That means there is an incentive, especially because I'm pretty sure Tyrese out-earned her significantly. Like his net worth was way above hers. So for her to get a level with his estate of what he's worth, she has to paint a picture of him to the court to justify them going, okay, cool, we're going to give you this amount of his things. That's crazy. So that you can even embellish things because you have to paint a picture. So there's an incentive to make the other person look bad so that you can get as much as you want. That's scary. Why do people want to get married? I'm out here a dating coach. I'm like, why are you getting married, guys? That's mad. That is crazy.
And sometimes it's even, a lot of people are doing it to get seen because it's very divorce. You would like when you get involved in a divorce situation, it's never fast. It's slow unless you guys are both on the same page. It's not a contested situation. It's uncontested. You guys are in agreement with certain things. Like, that's a best case scenario where you've already come up with an agreement, you sign paperwork, and you're able to move on. But if it's contested, it's never a fast process. It's very, very slow. And so there's people that you will write different things in order to be seen, in order to get in front of a judge, to get it to a place of resolve, or to get it to a place so that it's over. There's people that will do that, or lawyers that will do that, or whatever. It's such a complex and can be a convoluted process. And there's so many different nuances to it.
Okay, I've never been divorced, right? And by grace of God, it'll never happen to me. I don't even know about marriage, but that's another conversation for another day. I don't think it's that convoluted. I don't know. It's just the lawyers trying to drag it out because they make more money. Like that, I think it's really that simple. They want to make it as complicated and as convoluted. And oh no, this judge can't decide this. This judge has to, and then the kids, etc. Like all of this is to drag it out because the more they drag it out, the more hours they can bill you for. I think that's pretty obvious. Like we already know that the divorce lawyers and stuff, all they care about is, making sure they get paid. And, you get paid, but you get paid when they get paid, or they get paid when you get paid. Yeah, I don't think it's that.
But ultimately, when you involve lawyers in and you start, they're exchanging words, you're getting mad at what they're saying, they're getting mad at what you're saying, it gets uglier, it gets ugly. It's almost like you have somebody that's can you believe what they just said? Like you're like, what? I can't believe that I did all this stuff. How could they want? You just get it's like an instigation of pre-existing issues and just on the highest of levels.
Yeah.
And it's like a slow burn. And so there's a lot of different reasons why they put different wording outside of just winning. It's about being seen and getting it over with. Because some people just want to get it over with. And I totally understand that. You don't want to be sitting in a process for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. You want to, if you've made that decision, you want to kind of move on and move through it. But, so there's different reasons why people do that.
Okay, can we close out that poll right there?
Yeah.
And before we move on to the next thing, I want to see what the people like. Where we at with the
So check this out, guys. Are you considering going through or have experienced a divorce? We got over 250 votes, and 57% of people say yes.
57% of people?
Yeah.
That's a lot of people that's in that place right now, y'all.
That's crazy. So divorce is really an option.
No, it really is an option, and it really is a thing. And that lets us know how many people are, either married or recently divorced that's currently in here in this chat. And
I mean, 50% end divorced anyway, right?
Before we move on, guys, please, by the way, help us too, because this is how we spread it. Get us to 400 likes real quick. I need everybody to close down the chat and actually go about hitting that like button for me, please. But me too. But unfortunately, myself personally, I haven't been through a divorce as a husband, but I have been through the divorce as a child. And I know what that's like. Me and my little brother back there working the camp, both, we've been in a home like that. How have you saw that it affects the children? Or is there a way? Because what I want to figure out is how to mitigate the effects as much as possible, right? So just personally though, how have you seen that personally affect your child in any way in particular?
The way to make it as best for the children as possible is to make it as swift and quickly as possible. Like, so you without lawyers, if you can, you and your spouse, soon ex-to-be spouse, you come into a room and you're like, look, let's have a non-contested divorce. So let's agree between us, we tell our lawyers, and then that's that, because that's what's best for the kids. I think that is the only way you can try and have the least amount of impact in terms of the divorce process on the kids, right? You want to make it as quickly as possible. But guess what? The lawyers don't want to do that, right? So you have to be firm with that. Timmy says, if you don't plan on having kids, then I don't think people should marry. I agree. I don't see why you would get married if you're not going to have kids, and that's not an insult to anybody who gets married later in life. But, obviously do you, all the best for you. But at least I think as a younger adult, when you're still building your life, etc., I think unless you're going to have kids, I don't really see the point in even considering marriage. Like, I really don't. And I'm biased because I'm a man, so I see things a lot from a man's perspective, especially, if you're a man who provides, etc., and if you have something to lose. So obviously I have that biased perspective. And maybe that's why, because I guess as the woman, we know the courts are biased towards the woman. So as a woman, there's kind of everything to gain in most cases, unless she out earns him. But most women tend to not choose to marry men who they out earn. And even if they do choose, they usually get a prenup. I'll definitely tell my daughter that. If my daughter chose a man, I don't have a daughter, but if I have a daughter one day, by God's grace, and she chose a man she earns more than, I'm like, you better get a prenup, baby girl. Because I didn't work this hard so some other guy could take half of your inheritance. That's what my parents said to me.
Yeah. I mean, there's no real, y'all are coming at me today. I'm like, oh God, y'all might be crying on this daggone thing. Yeah, I mean, I filed when she was, when she was about 2. And so, I mean, she hasn't really known like us together, and her, now that she's, she's never really seen in her memory and being able to speak and walk and talk and like cognitively her processing. She doesn't, I don't think we've been more apart than we've been together in her life. She's 5 now.
Yeah.
So I don't think she has any like recollection of like us together. I would say that it's affected me more, her not having her father like in the house like that. It's affected me more seeing
Interesting.
her used to something I didn't want her to get used to. Didn't want her to get used. You know, I was raised in a divorce home, and it was a high conflict divorce.
Mm.
And I didn't want that for her. So I think it's harder for me because I made the decision. You know, I made that decision. And gosh.
Take your time.
Really quick, maybe this is just based on what the algorithm pushes, because you know conflict gets clicks. But I think more women who make the choice to divorce get to this point than people realize. And I think, you know, when I said earlier about how divorce looks like a sweeter deal because a lot of the time the woman will gain from it. But money's money, man. Money's not going to hug you at night. Money's not going to ask how your day is. Money's not going to stroke your hair. Money's not going to give you a cuddle. Like, money's not going to make you breakfast. Like, money, well, maybe money could make you breakfast, get someone to make it for you. But money's just money. I'm not saying it's not important. And, you know, a lot of people are chasing it. But I think a lot of the time, a lot of us can forget why we grind and work so hard to get this level of financial abundance. And the reason we do that is so that we can be who we want to be. There is no point working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, 350 days of the year, earning over $1 million or pounds if you can't see your friends when you want to see them, you can't be there for your family, you can't just have a night in with your loved one. Like, what is the point of earning that money if you don't have the freedom to be who you want to be? And I think so many of us give so many hours to chasing money, but we forget why. And I think the same way here, I think for a lot of people, especially a lot of women who initiate the divorce and they've got the assets and stuff, and that stuff is great. It's like, cool, I walked away with a lot, nice, but money is not a companion. And you have to remember, you do lose a companion. You lose someone who ideally cares for you or did care for you, you know? Respect to her for being honest. And I think more, not women in particular, but I think more people need to see this for sure. Because I think I can imagine it happens more than we realize. People deciding to get divorced because of how they're feeling in that period of the relationship when they're going through it down, when, you know, they're in the valleys. It's good that people see this, and, you know, I rate her for being completely 100 with it.
You know,
When
at
it
the
comes
end
to
of the
ends.
day, like, I don't think people understand, like, how, like, when you see a child, like, and she has a father, and I have a really great relationship with my dad. I have a great relationship with my stepdad. I have great relationships with the men in my life. And, you know, I always wanted for her to have that relationship, and she does. Her father loves her. You know, we've been able to go to like everything that's ever needed, like for her, like medically and things like that. If he needs to show up to, you know, a doctor's appointment, he'll go, things like that. But you know, it's hard. You know, it's a hard process to, you know, I would love for us to come to a place of peace for sure. I would love that. But at the end of the day, like I don't even want to paint myself like I'm a victim, because I'm not a victim. I'm just hurting that I made a decision that does affect her, and it does weigh on her. And that's why I would say to any person, any woman, any man, if you're highly emotional and you're all over the place and you're going left and right, like, even the Bible tells us not to do that. Like, that's not the place to make decisions.
Yeah.
The Bible says to take a beat and have wise counsel and to go through certain processes before you make the decisions. Like, there's a way to go about it, you know? And I don't think we think enough about, we're so mad and we're so angry. We're not thinking about how it affects the kids that are involved. We're not thinking about that, you know? And when I was mad, I wasn't thinking about how, like, her not having her dad in the house would affect her. And, like, getting used to seeing a mom on her own. When I know the value of having a man and having a man present in the house. Because my stepdad was around.
We're gonna hold it there real quick. That's what that last 30 seconds that she just said, I think is probably the most valuable part of the conversation. There's a lot of gold nuggets in this. We very seldomly hear about how it's important to have a masculine role in the household, and we've lost that message so much in today's society because it affects daughters and it affects sons. And I think that's what she's really touched on really highlights, and we're all guilty of it, myself included, but we live in a culture where it's all about me. Like, we're all like, it's about me, it's about me, it's about what I want, it's about how I feel. When marriage is a commitment to duty, that's not saying there shouldn't be love there, and you cannot even have a declaration of love. But marriage is about duty. It's about, this is the commitment and promise I make to you as a dutiful wife and mother, as a dutiful husband and father. And so I think what's happened is, it used to be all duty and no love, and that didn't work for us because it became clinical and people were having lovers outside of marriage. But over the past century, we've romanticized it, and now it's become all about love, but we're forgetting about the duty. And the irony is, if you're going to be with anyone for longer than a decade, the love is going to fluctuate. The love is going to, there'll be points where you absolutely love the person, you want to see them all the time. There's going to be points where you're like, I can't stand this person, I need to get away from them. But if the duty is here, when the love goes down here, the duty carries you through the marriage and the relationship until that comes back up. But the duty has to be up here. And so when she's like thinking about, how's this going to affect my children? You know, what about the promises that I've made? What about the community that we built together? That's the duty aspect. That's the part that we should be thinking before we get married, whether we can make that commitment, and then before we make decisions to get divorced. That's not me saying that no divorce is justified, but she's so much we've so much forgotten about the duty of marriage that we promise. And I think that's a big part while it's failing today, unfortunately, because marriage, was a contract. I mean, I don't know, maybe we don't need it. What do you think? Do you think we need it? Okay, we're gonna wrap it up there. We've got a couple of chats. Billy, what do I do if my boy crush friends on me? What do I do if my boy crush friends on me and he doesn't love me? Please tell me. Billy, I'm really sorry, but we're literally just finishing the live stream. But drop me a message on Instagram. Billy, it's at Stay Slick with Kit. Drop me a little message, and if you want some help, we can chat. But guys, thank you for tuning in tonight. Thank you for joining us. For everyone who stayed to the end, anyone who jumped in halfway through, if you're watching this in the after the stream, I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, tell us what you think about marriage. I'm 10 years old. Oh gosh. Okay, Billy, we cannot talk. You don't need any of that at all. You're way too young for any advice. Okay, we only talk to adults out here. Yeah, thanks for everyone joining in. And yeah, let me know in the comments below. What do you think about her situation? Can they reconcile that? I don't know if they can, because he was crying all over the internet and everything. And yeah, we need to take marriage more seriously. It's not a game. It's not a game, man, because it affects people's lives. So yeah. Also, Kit, PK humble grilling. Okay, I'll take a look at that one. Maybe it could be worth reacting to. But yeah. Lots of love to everyone. Monday night here. This is Stay Sick with Kit signing off, and I will see you next time. Peace.